This week in Sci-Fi, we've got our eye on Dune is finally here in cinemas this week. More sci-fi on the way for December. And a Discovery Recovery. It's back! Welcome to Eye on Sci-Fi, I'm Raymond Pedora. Much anticipated epic Dune hits Australian cinemas this week. Denis Villeneuve's take on the classic Frank Herbert novels is the first of at least 2 movies and has been a huge success at the box office for Studio Warner Brothers. The film has gone down well with both critics and audiences, although many have noted the storyline's initial slow burn, and there have been inevitable comparisons with David Lynch's 1984 version. Dune opens in cinemas December 2nd. After last week's confusion, Paramount Plus has got itself sorted and released Star Trek Discovery Season 4 in Australia this week. 2 episodes have been released already, with 1 per week following. To ease the pain of needing another subscription, a 50% discount is being offered for the first 3 months.
Ready when you are, Captain.
Let's fly.
Check out the link in the description for details. And Season 3 of Lost in Space hits Netflix on December 1 globally. This is officially the last in the series, but the trailer promises an action-packed finale as the kids set out to rescue the parents from the robots. And even if there's no last-minute reprieve, this wouldn't be the first series to become a classic of just 3 seasons. December just keeps looking better for sci-fi fans. Netflix has just released a trailer for The Silent Sea, a thriller set in an abandoned research facility on the moon, based on a short film by the same writer and director. The series is due to start streaming December 24, which makes this release quite late, but it's one we've been keeping an eye out for, and the trailer looks very promising. A new trailer for The Matrix Resurrections has been released to keep fans excited ahead of the December 26th Australian release. Although this is an international version, it includes new footage, including a shot of Trinity apparently melting. We're hoping the film is as slick as the promos. To breaking sci-fi news, and in a recent BBC interview, Ridley Scott revealed that pilots have been written for live-action series based on Alien and Blade Runner. The Alien TV concept was already news, but this is the first we've heard about a Blade Runner series. No details yet on what to expect content-wise, but according to Scott, work on both is progressing fast. Amazon Studios has revealed they're close to a deal to develop a TV series based on sci-fi role-playing game Mass Effect. This would be another in a line of TV adaptations from games. Last week, we reported Paramount Plus was releasing a TV series based on Halo. And Netflix has struck a deal to produce a TV series based on comic book Nocterra. Set in a world plunged into everlasting night that turns the living into monsters, the only way to survive is to stay close to artificial light. The hero of the series is Val Riggs and her well-lit 18-wheeler. Nocterra's progress has been remarkable, with the first comic released less than a year ago as a Kickstarter project. Oz Comicon is one of the first pop culture events to emerge from lockdown, opening in Sydney the weekend of December 4th and in Melbourne the following weekend. This year's event will have a homegrown format with a focus on local guests and exhibitors, although international guests will also be participating remotely. Comic-Con staples like cosplay and Artist Alley will be back, and the Australian Esports League are partners for the gaming zone. One of the artists there will be Daniel Picciotto, who's published with Frew Publications for The Phantom and Comics Tribe for Scam. He joins me now to talk about Comic-Con, his work, and pop culture after the pandemic. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So you're going to be Comic-Con this year, which is super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to know, since this is the first big event since lockdown, how do you think it's going to go, and what do you expect from it?
Yeah, definitely. I think people are probably waiting for something like this to happen, right? I think people are slowly coming out of their caves from COVID and lockdown, and looking forward to an event where they can just go out and do something they enjoy doing. I'm looking forward to just seeing people come to the con. I know back in March this year, we did a little pop-up test con where people came when people were unsure what it was going to be like, and it attracted large crowds. There was like a lot of people. It was all safe, COVID safe precautions. People were wearing masks and things like that. There were a lot of rules in place, but it was fun to see the amount of people come and enjoy a convention again.
And why do you think people love Oz Comic Con? Like, what makes it so popular? And like you said, makes people go out during a pandemic and want to go and participate.
Yeah, I think people are just looking forward to experiencing a convention. The fun thing about Comic-Con is that it attracts people from different areas and different interests, everything from comic books to video games to anything pop culture related, and a good time to a good place to meet your favorite artists and also some stars and TV stars and movies, etc.
And as an artist yourself, how do you think Comic-Con supports Australian artists? Because this year's theme and focus is on local Aussie grown artists. So how does Comic-Con support those people?
Yeah, great question. So it's, as you said, it's actually a focus on local talent. We traditionally have people flying from overseas, but to be able to, invite local guests, local artists, local actors, it really does place a focus on all the talent here in Australia who are doing big things overseas as well.
So who are you looking most forward to meeting this year at Comic-Con?
I'm looking forward to catching up with a lot of the local talent that I'm familiar with, and there's a lot of great artists here that I'm hoping to be able to make time for and catch up with them and say hello. But I guess meeting as well would be some friends who are local artists, actors, but then also the people, the fans, the people that love this stuff. So it's always good to see those reactions and to your work, that it really encourages you to do more, right? So comic book art is such a thing of solace, where you're sitting there by yourself and you're not really seeing a reaction to your work. So to be able to go there, let people see your work, whether it be the prints, the books that you've made, or even just the original art that you're doing at the time. It's always great to see that reaction, meet new people that way.
And I hear that you're running 2 panels this year as well. So could you tell us a bit about those 2?
Yeah, definitely. So on the Saturday, I believe it starts at 4:15 in the afternoon, we are running a session with a phantom writer, Julie Dietrich, and we will be discussing how to convert written scripts into a comic book page, and teaching everyone from kids to adults how to draw a comic book. So I'm looking forward to that. And then on the Sunday, we are potentially going to be doing a art battle with another artist. Yeah, so myself and another artist will be on stage, and we're going to allow the crowd to dictate what we draw, and then we will draw for them, and we'll actually be giving that original art out at the end of the battle.
How do you think, or what is it like being an Australian comic book artist? Is it any different? Are there kind of, similar pathways in other countries, or is it a unique kind of journey?
That's a great question. I would say that it is quite difficult. There is a large number of talented people here, and the industry is getting bigger and bigger every year. But in saying that, it's small in comparison to the foreign industry, whether it be in America or France or Japan. So the amount of people that you get to meet and network with is a lot smaller here. So what has helped me is actually go to the US, where like New York Comic-Con, for example, and just network with people there and meet people from Marvel or meet people that are big as well, and just get contacts that way who are able to help me boost or send me in the right direction. Yeah.
So what would your advice be to someone who is, 13 years in the past and they want to get started in the comic book world?
It would be, don't do it. Don't do it. And I love saying that, because sometimes people say, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And that's what I want to hear. Because it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours. But any advice in terms of getting your name out there, I would say social media is a big help. I'm not a fan of Twitter, but Twitter is a good place if you want to crack the US industry. But essentially, put the work in, put it online, get people on it, and then eventually, no matter what, if it's good enough, you're going to get eyeballs.
And just random question. So, in the age of the internet, like you said, artists are using platforms like Patreon and GoFundMe to help people, fans of their work, pay to access or commission work. What are your thoughts on that side of the being an artist?
Great question, because there is a lot of people right now utilizing both Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and those GoFundMe pages, and they're making a lot of money from it. And not only does it help you make money and as a sole trader, as a creative, but it actually boosts the work that you're doing, right? So the book that you might be on, it actually creates a following, and then from then on, it'll trigger to the next work that you do. So I think if you can put in the work to actually do those Kickstarters, because there are a lot of hard work to run a campaign, it will actually could be fruitful down the end if you do it right.
Now, speaking of, what are you working on at the moment? Are you allowed to tell us?
I've just completed some covers and things like that throughout the last year. Right now, I can say I've just completed a little story for the Phantom that will be out eventually. I can't say anything more. But yeah, I did that. And I'm also working on a creator-owned. I'm working with a famous Aussie author, Nathan Ferrugia. So he was on the USA Today bestseller list, and he's putting together an original IP. And hopefully we're going to pitch that next year.
So what excites you right now in the world of comics?
Good question. I would say the artwork always excites me, purely because I have to stay a fan to be able to produce it. So if I can't find someone whose work I appreciate, I think my work would end up being stale. But in terms of books, I think there's a lot of independent work coming up. Besides, Marvel and DC, the usual suspects, there's a lot of independent work that are coming up that's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
So on the topic of Marvel and DC, we know how big these companies are in the world of comics. Do you think that having them be so dominant is beneficial for comic book artists and fans, or do you think there are times when it's not so beneficial to have such huge presence in the community?
Wow, yeah, that's a loaded question. I think it is definitely beneficial to have companies being successful. And I think the more companies that can be successful, the better. I think competition is healthy. There's always got to be a number one, and to stay on number one is really hard work. And I think, Marvel's been there for a long time, but you'd find things like, DC has come up and produced awesome books in the last couple of years. But at the same token, there's a lot of artists that work for those companies and branch off and able to build a name for themselves to create their own work and build an audience that way. So I think you'll find great work everywhere, and I think the more people that can build successful things, the better.
What would you recommend at the moment for comic book art fans to read? Anything that's coming out that they should keep an eye out for?
Great question. Marvel and DC always produce pretty well-known books, and there's always the usual suspects, like things like Batman has some great art on it, or Spider-Man, things like that. But I think the independent companies have some great work. There is a book called Tokyo Ghost from Image that's actually being made into a film itself. So it would be great to get in right now and read the book before it comes out, so you know it. But I think having friends in the industry, they've been able to maybe recommend some great things to me that I normally wouldn't be open to. And I've started to look at more Japanese work. So people like Otomo or Teruta, whose brilliant artworks, and things like Akira and Alita are great books. And manga is huge, even here in Australia. So I think that's starting to influence my traditional American work.
Now, what tips would you give to someone who is going to Comic-Con for the first time this year?
Prepare for the unexpected. There's a lot of cosplay. There's a lot of people in different outfits. You may not know what they're wearing, but it's kind of cool. It's a big spectacle, and I would just say go and appreciate the talent that's there.
Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel.
Thanks, Trey. It's been a pleasure to be here.
We've extended the current poll for another week after a late start, asking if you'd be tempted to return to pirating if sci-fi became too hard to get on subscription services. Sign up at the website to vote in the poll and join discussions. That was the week in sci-fi. Until next week, stay up to date at ionsci-fi.com.